Mark, go high five.
I'm kind of edgy this morning, so look out.
I know the feeling.
I'll try to refrain, but just never know.
You never know.
You should. Hey, you shouldn't be edgy. You should be.
You got those cuffs ready, Sheriff?
Indeed.
I'm not gonna push the green button. We'll call to order the Benton County Board of Commissioners meeting. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve. You might want to mention condolences.
I'll give Commissioner Schlangen a couple minutes to get ready before we keep going. I'm the chair, so I will do how I please. It'd be nice if he'd come here on time, Commissioner Schlangen. You have all your paperwork and everything? Okay, great, thank you. So, roll call, Beth.
Sure.
Make sure everyone, put a note, everybody is here. Commissioner Gopinski will not be here today. His father died last night, and our thoughts and prayers are with him. Okay, approve or amend the agenda. Monty.
Mr. Chair, we just have one change. Under Administrator, the ARPA agreement with the city of Sauk Rapids. I understand the city has some additional changes they'd like us to consider. So we're gonna bring that back to your first meeting in January, but pull it forward today. Otherwise, we have no other changes, Mr. Chair.
Move to approve the amended agenda, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. County Board meetings are broadcasted live and being recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. County Board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board's chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off your cell phones or turn them on vibrate. Thank you. Open forum. Anybody out there wishing to address the county board at this time? I see nobody in the audience. We're good, Beth? Thank you. Moving forward, consent agenda. What we would like to do with 1 through 10.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 10.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? If not, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next up, Monty.
Mr. Chair, the
Please.
first item is the consideration of appointment Jerry Machi to the Mississippi River St. Cloud One Watershed One Plan Technical Advisory Committee. Of course, Jerry's here. If you have any questions, I believe, Jerry, didn't you want to make a few comments? If I may, could we invite Jerry to the podium?
Please do, Jerry. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I saw you had a fairly short agenda today, so I took the 35-minute PowerPoint presentation, and so bear with me,
Morning,
we'll
Jerry.
get
You may
through it all.
get cut off. I don't know.
You always seem to make a smile on our face.
Well, fairly quickly, the Mississippi River St. Cloud One Watershed One Plan process is starting. We actually had our first official meeting as a board yesterday, and things are starting to roll forward. There's 4 different committees that are set up for the One Watershed One Plan. You got the policy committee, which Commissioner Johnson has been appointed to, and I think Commissioner Pop, I think you're the alternate.
Correct.
Okay, and then there's a steering committee, which is made up of staff. They're the ones that kind of do the administrative things, get the meetings set up, figure out where the public meetings are going to be, that type of thing. There's what's called the Citizen Advisory Committee. And that's the group that will meet less frequently. It's members of the public that will look at the plan as we're putting it together. So as details get put together, some of the details are worked out, then the Citizen Committee goes and works on providing comment to that. And then there's also the Technical Advisory Committee, which is what I'm here for today. Technical Advisory Committee is made up of members that are appointed, one appointment by each governmental unit that's a member. So there's 11 members, including Benton County and the Benton Soil and Water. And then also state agencies and, let's see here, Nature Conservancy, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The Technical Advisory Committee will meet about once a month. Meetings generally last a couple hours, and then plus, homework in between. And the role of that committee, I mean, they work with the consultant and also then with the policy committee. They're the staff level group that kind of puts the plan together, the framework of it, at least. So that's kind of the role of that Technical Advisory Committee. The timeline is about 2 years. We should be done by the end of 2024 if everything goes according to plan. And had a quick telephone conversation with Commissioner Johnson and a couple of your staff from Land Services, your Land Services Director and Sierra Cotter, and myself and one of my staff members I'll be introducing here in a second. And we talked and we sort of came to the consensus that it might be best for the county board to appoint somebody from the Soil and Water District to act on the Technical Advisory Committee. And Scott, correct me if you've got a different point of view, but the reasoning, let me back up. You do have qualified staff, and you certainly could appoint somebody from Land Services, Department of Planning and Zoning. But sort of the main reason is we envision that this plan is going to be more geared towards implementing the kind of projects that the Soil and Water District would be involved with and less around planning issues. Some one watershed, one plans do try to have zoning kind of issues the same across any watershed boundaries. We don't envision that to be the case. So I'm happy to step forward and do that on your behalf. Our intention at the SWCD is to appoint Emily to fulfill that role for us. So you would have two Soil and Water District people there.
That's a great recap, Jerry. It makes total
Okay.
sense for you,
Yeah.
and I appreciate your willingness to do that. And I know Roxanne and Sierra do too.
Yeah, I think they do. It's a pretty big commitment time-wise.
Right.
It's a fair amount of time, definitely is.
Commissioner Pop.
So in this process, Jerry, is there staff time that can be reimbursed for, or is that not part of the plan?
Yeah, good question. None of the staff time can be reimbursed for with the grant. We've got a grant, a
Yeah.
little over $200,000. The only thing that's eligible for reimbursement for us is our time. We're the fiscal agent.
Right.
So it's just the fiscal agent time. The rest of it, we just pay for out of our general fund, or
Okay.
we'll use, we get a little bit of water plan dollars, but yeah, it'll just come out of our general fund. So part of your allocation to us every year, we'll use towards this for the next couple of years.
No, I think it makes totally good sense what they do and how they
And
do
again,
it.
I appreciate his willingness to do it.
Yeah.
He's got the expertise.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
So with that, we need a motion, Mr. Chair?
Please.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we appoint Jerry Machi to the Mississippi River St. Cloud One Water, One Plan for the county.
And I'll second. And if I could, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Pop, if you want to maybe, I think you want that as a TAC representative, correct?
Technical
That motion,
advisory.
As a
if you'd be willing
technical
to- Advisory committee,
representative
if you'd be willing to amend that motion.
So amend and add that to it.
to that, they'd be on the TAC.
And I'll amend that second then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussions on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Yeah, really
Appreciate it.
quickly, can I add a piece?
Go ahead.
I would like to introduce you to a new staff member,
Thank
if
you.
it's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Emily, why don't you come up here? Emily Forward, you guys all knew Kendra for a while. Come on up, Emily. And Emily was hired in October, and she's taken over the role of the water planning, but as we're transitioning over to one watershed, one plan, and out of the county level planning, her responsibilities have changed, and so has the position name. So she's our watershed and outreach specialist. And Emily, if you wouldn't mind just giving a really quick background
Yep.
of your experience.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I graduated from Bemidji State University in 2018, and then from 2017 to about, not including the COVID years, 2022, I worked seasonally with the MPCA doing biological monitoring, and I'm very happy to be here.
Welcome to
Great.
Benton County.
Yep,
Thank you.
welcome. It'll
Thank
be a
you.
great addition.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you
Have a
very
good day,
much,
you
Jerry.
guys.
Have a wonderful Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, next up, on the agenda is a public hearing to consider the proposed changes to the Benton County fee schedule. Before opening a public hearing, we will first hear from county staff report.
Mr. Chair, every year, about this time, we review all the countywide fee schedule, and departments propose potentially changes to you all, and those were reviewed actually in a recent committee of the whole, but I think we definitely should do another quick review of those here during our public hearing. The first set of changes appear on page 11 under Parks, and I'll cover those if I may. Mr. Chair, the Park Commission at its last meeting considered primarily the fees for camping and the use of shelters, and it observed that these fees had not been revised in many, many years. There was also a couple of things that the Park Commission considered. Is that this spring we intend to bring Wi-Fi to the campground, and secondly, we're going to make some pretty substantial upgrades to the electrical service at many of the campsites. And also, the Park Commission considered camping fees at various other campsites, both private and public, and that makes these recommended changes to you. As you can see, in many instances, the Park Commission recommends a phased-in approach to increasing the camping fees, not wanting to hit our camp users all at once with large fees. Instead, let's try and phase those in over a period of a couple of years in most instances. So the basis where we start from is the per night fee, and you can see that would go from currently $30 to $35 in '23 and $40 in '24. The weekly and monthly fees we maintain the same essential discount that one gets now when you rent for a longer period of time. One of probably the most significant changes is the seasonal, and as we observed in a recent committee of the whole, that works out to about $11 a night under the current fee structure. We would phase in an increase over a period of 4 years, currently, again, going from $1,100 ultimately to $1,800 in 2026. Again, trying to soften that increase by spreading it over a period of 4 years. Up to the top, there was some increases to the shelter fees. Again, those had not been adjusted, and no one can recall how long it had been since those had been adjusted. So we have some small increases in the shelter fees. If any questions or thoughts, Mr. Chair, on parks, otherwise we'll move on to our next presenter.
I have none. Commissioners have any thoughts or comments on this? Move on.
The next set of changes would be for highway, and those begin on page 12, and Mark is here for a quick review of those. Mark, you need this? You have your own page.
Yeah,
You're
I got
good,
my own
okay.
page. Again, brought to the committee of the whole, last Monday. We've been tracking for the last 3 years our entrance permit, our time that essentially costs that, on staff that spend on entrance permits, and averages, actually a little over $300 a permit. So the proposed changes is to change the residential permit to $200 or field entrance for 24-foot wide entrance. Commercial entrances or wide entrances, the proposed change would be to $300, and then for street entrance permits of increasing that cost to $400.
Any questions on that for Mark? Thank you.
And Mr. Your last set of changes will begin on page 13, and Sheriff Heck is here to review those.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Very briefly, we're looking at increasing our fees that we currently bill when the STS crew does work for nonprofits or governmental entities. As noted in the letter I sent you, that fee hasn't changed since 2010. The hourly rate of our STS crew leader alone is just under $44 an hour. So we're proposing to increase the up to 4 hour rate to $100 and the more than 4 hours of time rate up to $200, recognizing that this still isn't completely covering our costs, but we're trying to be mindful of the fact that we are doing this work for nonprofits, governmental entities, and we want to make the fee as reasonable as possible. The second fee that we're asking to have changed is the fee for a permit to carry. Currently, our office charges $60 for a new application and $55 for a renewal. That fee is based entirely on the, 90% of it roughly is a staff time, and the other 10% is fees that we either pay to the state or for supplies. We reevaluated the costs of our staff time in reference to our current gun permit process, and we've asked to increase the fees to $70 for an initial and $65 for a renewal. That is just a little bit short of our calculations of our staff time involved in our supplies for these, processing these applications.
Mr. Chair.
Any question?
Yeah, one quick question, Sheriff.
Yes.
Any idea off the top of your head how many permit to carry or how many renewals you did? 22? Or last year? Sorry to put you on the spot, but just a guess?
I'm trying to recall, I think that the number is around 1,000 to 1,500. I know last year was another record-setting number. But I think we're always right around that 1,000 to 1,200 range.
Okay, thank you.
That's between renewals and new permits?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'll
Thank you.
be on the list next year, so.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Get your fee paid.
Yeah, really. Any other questions for Sheriff Troy Heck? If not, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Chair,
Have a
I'll
great
move to
Christmas.
approve the
Hold it.
fee schedules presented. Do we have them all?
That concludes our staff report. If you could allow some time for any public comment or
just-
questions.
Thank you.
Relax.
Thank you.
So, now we're gonna open the public hearing. Is there anybody wish to address the board on this agenda item? Anybody wish to address the board on this item? Final call. Anybody wishing to address the county board? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Is there any emails, letters, communications, or anything, Monty, about this?
No, sir.
Okay. Any official action that is required now by the township? No. The county board will now have time to discuss questions to staff. Do we have any questions for Monty? Okay, moving forward, what do you want to do with this?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the fee schedules presented.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next, consider final 2023 Benton County budget and levy. Monty.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Well, of course, this topic has been discussed substantially over the last several months. This process actually began back in June with the development of the base budget, and of course, the board had a week-long of budget hearings back in August. You considered a proposed budget and levy back in September, on September 26th, actually. You held a truth and taxation public meeting on December 8th. And here we are today to consider final budget and levy adoption. So, Mr. Chair, again, given all that extensive review that's occurred up to this point, I did not intend to give a detailed presentation this morning. You can see up on your screen, this is the same presentation that we used for the Truth and Taxation public meeting. And just to make a couple of points. Our levy is proposed to go up 5.47%. Although we should see another nice reduction in our county tax rate from 54.7% to 48.28% of tax capacity. And that's down from a peak of 77.74% back in 2013. Again, we're seeing fairly substantial growth in our taxable market value into 2023. One of the questions that came up during the TNT meeting I recall was someone might say, hey, your tax rate's going down, but my taxes are still going up. And if the rate of growth of your property exceeds the rate of reduction in the tax rate, you might see an increase in your county taxes. So I think that's one consequence when you do own property that's experiencing rapid value growth, is you may actually see an increase in your county taxes. Moving on down a few bullet points, as we've observed on numerous occasions, one of the primary drivers behind the levy increase is compensation benefits. That would include a general wage adjustment, step increases for employees, and health insurance increase. Our final increase was about 12% for 2023. Another big factor is we used some American Rescue Plan Act funds to help cover some revenue losses for 22, and of course that's one-time money and it's got to get replaced. So the levy will have to go up to cover that loss of those one-time revenues. And again, those are two biggest pieces that make up the $1.2 million levy increase. As we noted in the Truth and Taxation public meeting, very little is actually considered new things. The board did add one staff appraiser position, and about half of that cost is covered by the revenues that we're now going to keep instead of paying out to a local assessor. There was some small increase in the crack filler budget for the highway department. But otherwise, really, again, the big story behind this budget and levy is compensation benefits and then replacing the lost ARPA funds. And I want to note one final thing is the budget does use about $700,000 of reserves and to help keep that levy increase as small as possible. So, Mr. Chair, those are the highlights I wanted to make, if I could, from the proposed budget and levy. The way the statute works, it asks you to adopt the levy first and then the budget.
Okay,
And you'll
so-
see the two resolutions in your packet.
Right, so we'll take them both separately. Board, what would you like to do with this?
Mr. Chair, I think we've worked this over several times, and I would move to adopt the budget. Right?
If I just may add, it is the first section would be to adopt the levy, and
Okay, or
then
to
secondly, as
adopt
a
the
separate,
levy.
would be adopt the budget, yeah.
Okay,
Second.
so we got a motion and a second to adopt the tax levy. Any questions? Any discussions? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the 2023 budget as presented.
Second. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? If not, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
Next.
Mr.
Consider
Moving on. It's a-
elected official
Yes,
salaries.
it's a statutory responsibility of county boards to set the salaries for our elected officials that include the auditor treasurer, the county attorney, and the sheriff. This topic was discussed at a December 12th committee of the whole, and I believe a consensus was reached as to those salaries, and those amounts appear in the attached resolution. There is also an attached table showing how those change from current. It's important to note, of course, that for two of the incoming elected officials, auditor, treasurer, and attorney, the current salaries are the current incumbents in those offices, the predecessors. So, again, Mr. Chair, the proposed, consensus amounts appear in the attached resolution.
Thank you, Monty. What does the board want to do with this?
Mr. Chair, I think that we've had a huge amount of discussion over the last few days, or few meetings about salaries and that. I think the people that were elected were into, or had the opportunity to be into, to state their case or to be present for that. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the salaries for the 2023 elected officials.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, set county commissioner salary.
So again, it's also, Mr. Chair, the statutory responsibility of county boards to set the salaries of county commissioners. And the amount that appears in the resolution is a result of the consensus discussion from the December 12th committee of the whole.
Board, what would you like to do with this?
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
I'll second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to note for the record is that the adjustment that was part of that consensus is the same amount that was also, the board recently approved for non-union employees for
Correct.
2023.
2.5%, correct?
Yes, sir.
Monty? Okay, any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Got ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Just give me a minute here. Okay, I called the question and nobody opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next,
We're ready to
told
move
you I
on.
was having a
Yeah,
bad morning.
okay, no
so
problem, sir.
Just give me a minute. Set the county board per diem rate, please.
Yes, sir. County boards are eligible to receive a per diem on their service on various boards and commissions. And such per diem must be established by resolution. It was a consensus of the board at the December 12th Committee of the Whole to keep the county per diem rate at the current $70. And that's reflected in the attached resolution.
County board, what would you like to do with this?
For approval, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
One further comment, again, Monty, this would be for countywide, this is Planning Commission, Board of Adjustment.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson, what we do typically is your first meeting in January, we'll bring you an action to
Okay.
approve the per diem for Planning Commission, Board of Adjustment, and so on. You
Okay.
bet. We'll do
Thank
that in
you.
January. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Is,
Commissioner
Monty,
Pop.
that's for all, like, park commissions? and
Yes, sir.
everything?
Extension
Okay.
Committee.
And I think.
All the
you know,
various citizen boards and commissions, yep. We'll
Okay.
do that in first meeting in January.
Great, thanks for that clarification. Okay, any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Next, consider agreement upon procedures engagement due to change in elected office holder.
Of course. Of course, we have a change in our auditor treasurer as of January. And as you see in the agenda item, we looked at, there's a couple statutory provisions that we look to guide why this limited engagement needs to occur. And one of those, it says under Minnesota 574.23 is that the board must have a thorough examination of the bonded office holder's account. So obviously the auditor treasurer is a bonded office holder. And secondly, under 385, it says the board must witness and attest the delivery of accounts, books, vouchers, et cetera, from the outgoing treasurer to the successor. So in essence, this limited engagement as proposed by Clifton Larson Allen accomplishes those statutory purposes. And I know when there was a change from Carrie Thorston to Nadine Inman, we did the exact same thing. We had Clifton Larson Allen come in and do this limited engagement when that change occurred. So they have proposed here doing, and you know, in auditor speak, they call it an agreed upon procedure. So it sounds like something medical, but anyway, this is what they would, and all the things that they would do are described. I believe pages 4 and 5 describes exactly what the auditors will do. Much of it involves an examination of bank account transactions. Where's money getting transferred in and out of? So in other words, is there a trail? Okay, where'd it go? Where'd it come from? That's what they're looking primarily is at the bank accounts. So that'll happen on around the end of December to verify those accounts, and then the board will receive a report from Clifton Larson Allen. As you can see, the cost is about $8,400, and my proposal is this would come from the board contingency.
Thank you, Monty. Commissioner Pop, you had a question?
Yes and no. Yeah, I think it's a must that we need to do this as we change,
Yes.
holders in that office. So with that, I'll make that a motion.
I'll second, Mr. Chair, and move to discussion, please.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Monty, just for clarification, page 5 and 6 under Wells Fargo Advisors and US Bank, I'm not seeing any account numbers listed. Is that to assume we have only one account, and if so, why there wouldn't be an account number listed? And secondly, my second question would be, I understand this agreement to be a 12/31/22 reconciliation.
Yes.
Is there there would not be a further reconciliation after the new year
There
starts?
will not be. So let me answer your first question. So, the auditors requested from the auditor treasurer, and they're listing every account that we have.
Yep.
Any account, anywhere. And the auditors tell me is that this document needed to list those accounts. And I'll accept their judgment, that, the auditors are saying under your requirements, they must list them. So this is an identification of every account.
Okay.
And then secondly, again, I understand the auditor will be off the accounts as of 12/31. So then no subsequent review will be required through January 3rd, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next, consider
I can fill in, Mr.
please
Chair?
keep going. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
okay,
having
sure, no problem. Well, I don't want to get in a big rush here, so,
no, Commissioner
So,
Kapinski's phone is coming to me now.
this is something similar the board did about 3 to 4 years ago, where we looked at the reserve levels that existed at December 31st, and then made a transfer to CAP. And I included in this packet, it's a document that looks like this,
Yep.
and it shows you, so it shows you the actual unreserved fund balances at the end of December of '21. And you can see in the revenue fund, there was 6.8 months of coverage. We'll skip over highway, and then in human services, there was 7.5. What I attempted to do is give us a sense of, well, okay, where will those stand at the end of '23? As we've noted in the past, we are using some fund balance in '22 and '23. So the number that I am really focusing on is the bottom line where it says balance available to transfer to CAP. So in the revenue fund, about 1.4, in the human services, about 2.5. And this would get you down closer to the 5 months of fund balance coverage. That's a standard that we follow, is 5 months of fund balance coverage. So what this would do is it would take those resources out of these two funds, revenue, human services, park them over here in the CIP fund, just another bucket. But again, that's where we pay for large capital projects. Sit there until the board says, okay, here's how we want to use it for a possible building project and so on, or whatever major capital needs that may come up. So my recommendation is to take $2 million out of the human services fund, $1 million out of the revenue fund, park it in CIP, and that's then available for possible future building projects. Just one thing it's important to note is, to the extent that you can use cash, you're reducing your interest costs. So that's probably a good thing. So you have a resolution in the packet, Mr. Chair, which would authorize this transfer, as I just described, to the CIP fund.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the resolution transferring revenue fund and human services fund reserves to the capital projects fund.
I'll second that.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
One question, Mr. Chair. Monty, you said you were taking 1 million out of the general fund?
Yes, sir.
and 3 million, or 2 million out of, so a total of 3 million?
Yes, sir. 3 million total, 2 million out of human services. Yep.
Does that bring our general fund down?
To about the 5 month. Yeah.
Okay.
We'd still have the 5 months.
All right.
Yeah, we still have the 5 months in both funds. Yeah. Yeah. Still have the 5
Any more?
months.
Any more? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Monty, move on, please.
And I believe my final item is a change in our Cobra administration. I'm going to turn over to Johanna. This is another casualty of the switch from Preferred One to Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's really the story here. So Johanna, you want to come up and cover this one for us?
morning, Chair and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're bringing to you a request to authorize us to move our Cobra services to MedSurety effective 1/1/2023. Over the last, from 2018 to current, we had been using Preferred One for our Cobra services and our retiree management. Blue Cross Blue Shield does not offer that service. When going back to the collaborative, we were not the only county entity that used that, so all of their recommendation, MMA, was to use MedSurety. They have, as I listed in there, they're located here in Minnesota. They have a lot of entities that use them. They are the #1 provider right now. WEX was another option that we looked at, but they don't have the Minnesota continuation for the life insurance. So we found this to be the best option for us moving forward. Any questions?
Thank you, Joanne.
Chair, I'll move to approve the continuation and retiree billing administration agreement with MedSurety LLC effective January 1st of 23 and authorize the board chair to sign it.
Second. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Joanna.
Commissioners.
Now I'll turn it over to the Human Services Board Chair, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Bob. Call our
Morning.
Human Services Board to meeting, or to order. We need approval of our minutes to our agenda. Any changes?
No.
No changes.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion is second to approve our agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. We have consent agenda items 1 through 7. Your wishes with those?
Move for,
Yep.
oh, go ahead.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 7 as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Move on to your first item, Bob. Consider the 23-27 contract for interns with St. Cloud State.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is typically something that we've brought most years here, and it probably could have went on the consent agenda, but basically it's an agreement between St. Cloud State and Benton County to continue to use interns. So I would ask that you approve that contract.
Any questions for staff members? Anything?
I guess we've done it for a long time and.
Yes, we
to do it.
continue to, I think
From-
it's a pipeline for us
Yeah.
to, yep, so I think it's a great idea.
We probably recruit a few workers now and then, right?
Yep.
Yep, we do eventually.
Hopefully.
Sooner or later, we do.
So with that, Mr. Chair, if there's no other discussion, I'll approve, recommend the approval of the 2023 contract with St. Cloud State.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. I move on to second item, consider the approval of Strong Foundations evidence-based home visiting contract and acceptance sustained funding, January 1st of 23 through 12/31 of 27. Bob?
As you know, we brought this item before you in the past, and was a situation where we were given 2-year funding, and that was something that it needed to be self-sustaining after a period of time, but MDH has decided to give us more funding so that we can annually sustain this from 23 through 27. So I would ask that you approve that as well. If you have any questions, I believe Deb is online here, and she would be willing to.
Any questions, commissioners?
Mr. Chair, do we have any idea how much more funding?
Deb, do you wanna pop on?
Sure. Collaborative, between Stearns, Benton, Sherburne, and Wright counties are jointly receiving $130,000 a year for collaborative efforts, for that 5-year period. And Benton County will be receiving a family home visiting grant in the amount of $210,000 for the family home visiting, $210,000 per year for the family home visiting and the services that we're offering through our public health program.
Great. Any other questions for Deb or Bob? Thank you for joining us, Deb, by the way. Good morning.
Thanks, Deb.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to approve this contract. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. And finally, Bob, consider the grant agreement with DHS allowing Benton County Human Services to access additional adult protection grant funding.
And that's exactly what you had just mentioned, is that it's an extra $4,100 that was left over unspent from the state. So they typically try to bring that back to the county. So we're gonna use it in a couple different ways, as you can see later in that paragraph. So I would ask that you approve the $4,100.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the $4,100.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Anything else, Bob?
I'm gonna get while the getting's good.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll adjourn our
Thank you.
Human Services Board. Turn it back over to the board chair.
Thank you. Now we'll reconvene our regular board meeting. Next up, Mark Lloydell, interim county engineer. Consider resolution to support of a City of Rice Transportation Alternatives grant application. Mark, did you make it home last night?
Yes, I did.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you for the jump start.
I'm assuming you didn't drive that vehicle this morning?
No, I didn't. I drove my personal vehicle.
That's
this
good.
morning.
Good deal.
All right, so, morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board.
Good morning.
I'm just trying to pull up the there we go, presenter shared. So yeah, the first item, we have 4 resolutions. They're all to deal with federal funding money. There's no guarantee we're gonna get for any of them, but so the first one, yep, is the City of Rice. Jenny Leeser in Human Services, I think, is presented to you kind of on this project a little bit in the past. She's been working with the city for this federal funding, but essentially what's needed is a resolution of support for the City of Rice, their transportation alternative grant pro application. So what that is, if you see on the screen, is they're planning on along our Casatu in the City of Rice of putting a pedestrian crossing across BNSF's Burlington Northern Railroad Company's tracks. I think they were throwing a few different options, maybe of an arm versus kind of a maze. What this resolution is that it's essentially saying that we're gonna, since City of Rice is not a municipal state aid city, the county has to be the administrator of these funds. And so that's kind of what this resolution's talking about, that they're gonna agree, again, full responsibility and maintenance of that, but we're agreeing to sponsor that, to receive the funds, and then distribute the funds to the contractor. So yeah, what's needed is for that application to be submitted is a resolution from the county board, saying that we are in support of this project.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark? Commissioner Pop?
I think that this has come before us before. They've been working on this.
We've been working on this
Yeah,
for quite
they've
a
been working
while,
on this for a while, so. I'll make a motion that the Benton County is hereby authorized to direct and act as an agent on behalf should be behalf of the City of Rice, right? And execute any and all documents appropriate for the necessary to carry out the approval of this grant resolution.
I'll second it.
Great, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
Just a shout out. Thank you, Jenny, for your work on this. I know you presented to us before and appreciate it.
Yep,
Mark.
always very appreciative. Not, I'll call it,
Commissioners.
you're welcome. If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next, consider the Region 7W tip okay, go ahead, Mark, please.
Yeah, so this is specifically for Benton County. We have applied we apply for this every year, so it's a 7W. It's outside the APO boundary. There's federal money that we're able to apply for the Area Transportation Partnership. And so part of this is we essentially, the application is due January 9th. On our county road, our CIP plan, we have identified, Casatu as a reconstruction. We've applied for this project in the past and not obtained federal funding. Discussion at prior committee of the wholes was to apply again for this funding for this project. So what it is essentially it's just a resolution of support. I think it says they're committing a local match, but essentially as a county board that you are aware of this and you're supportive of us applying for federal money and obtaining outside funding.
Any questions for Mark?
Is there anything that we can do to push this along, or is there anybody we could talk to help support this maybe a little more? In the past, I know we've been denied.
Yeah. Hey, there's a number of things in the application. Part of one is equity. So now that we haven't received federal money for a number of years, that's kind of helping us out in one way. I know the amount that we did receive in CASA 7 was a significant amount, so that kind of, hurts us in that regard. But now that time has passed, I'm going to go through Chris's application that he had before and try to see if I can fine tune some wording and that sort. But yeah, I guess I don't know if that answers any questions. I'll push it as hard as I can. 7W, we are competing against non-APO cities or Met councils. So we're also competing against, I think, like Elk River and Monticello and some cities, I believe, like that. So it's, you're talking about, they're talking about pedestrian and, ADA improvements and all this stuff. We're pushing for the trail side, or we're pushing not trail side, but pushing for the Benton Beach Park and access to city, with having the wider shoulders, making it safer for pedestrians to walk along the road if they so choose.
And Mr. Chair, I believe that in the past, we've made a recommendation that this is like a connector road between Highway 25 and Highway 10, so US
Yeah.
10. So,
Yep, anything we can add in that application with
Yeah.
pedestrian safety and a connector
Yeah.
road is very positive for us.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the submittal of County Road 2 reconstruction for possible federal funding.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. I oppose, motion carries. Thank you. Next, consider the APO solicitation for federal funding and resolution of local match funding. Mark?
So this also is an additional project that the county has applied for funding. It was last year. Chris Bird did through the APO. So you'll notice the part of the project, it starts at CASA 1 Mayhew Lake Road and it continues all the way up to County Road 44. Reason then it stops there at County Road 44 is that's the APO boundary. It's just again a resolution of support and then if we would get the money that we're gonna commit to the local match share. And again, this is through the APO. Any questions on that?
Any questions for Mark? If not, what's the board want to do with this?
I'll
Somebody
move
please.
approval of the APO solicitation for federal funding and resolution of the local match.
Second.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next, consider resolution in support of City of Sauk Rapids Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant application. Mark?
All right, so, unlike the city of Rice, City of Sauk Rapids is a municipal state aid city. They want to apply for federal money, and sorry, I thought I had brought in here in the application, or in my presenter share, but you have in the packet there, would be they would like to install, pedestrian flashers across 2 of our roundabouts on CASA 3 up the hill. It'd cross just one leg of CASA 3 and the other leg would be on the west side of CASA 3. So one would be at Summit and the next roundabout to the south of there. I talked to Scott with SEH, he's the City of Sauk Rapids engineer. There would be no local cost for us. We wouldn't be sponsoring the project, but since it's in our county road rights of way, they need a letter of support. We talked about, if they did get it, the maintenance would be on them and, and they would have to fill out a utility permit if they did. No cost to the county on this. It's just essentially saying that the county board, you're supporting this project just with this resolution.
It's surprising. I've talked to City of Sauk Rapids and we've talked about this in the past and I'm kind of surprised they weren't put in a long time ago when they put in the roundabouts. Because even at that point in time, I had conversations with the city about that. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll approve a resolution in support of the City of Sauk Rapids Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant application as presented.
second. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Engineers update.
All right, one of the updates I have for you today is, state aid got a tentative amount for what the reduction would be in state aid, allotment this coming year. It's technically tentative, but, usually at the beginning of December, it doesn't change too drastic. In, I think, a previous engineer's update, it was estimated to be about 7, and at that point, they were saying they didn't think it'd be any lower than that. But right now, they're saying a 4% reduction. That'd be 4% difference than from last year, or, well, 2022, I should say, or this current year. And I will say the revenue side of this last year actually came in higher than was budgeted. I think the county brought in 240,000 more, as a result. But this next year, what that would do is if this number holds, it would be a reduction in about $114,000 in state aid construction, and then state aid maintenance would be about $83,000 reduction in the state aid maintenance. I think with that extra revenue this year, that offset, that levy could be transferred to next year and offset that. Just a recommendation, but nothing that needs board action on, but I just thought I'd bring that as an update to the county board.
Commissioner Pop?
So what, you're talking about more revenue coming in from which sources?
State aid, so last year, the revenue source, my understanding is, it was budgeted what was the previous year, and actually, the difference was 240,000 higher, that was actually brought in from state aid maintenance.
Okay.
But now state aid maintenance, you have to prove you're using it on county roads, so.
We did that, I think.
Yeah, but, so we did bring in additional revenue, so that would be, to offset that 83,000, you could, that'd be up to us, the county board, but of transferring, revenue from 2022, levy into 2023.
And maybe there's an outside chance that the same thing would happen this year.
That's a possibility. I know when we were at the Transportation Alliance meeting, I'm glad we're only at 4% instead of 10, what they were talking about.
Yeah, so that's the good news, because when I had my last meeting, our state aid, our pre-screening board meeting, they were saying 7%, possibly 10% reduction. And so it's welcome news, I think, with the 4.2. It's 4% across the board, but just how it works with each county, its percentage is slightly different than that. Ours is 4.2 right now. Not guarantee again, but it's a little more closer to, I think, what we probably can expect. Any questions on that? Next thing I just wanted to bring your attention is a couple closures, upcoming projects that MnDOT's doing. I did get some email correspondence, so Trunk Highway 23, there is a box culvert here in the city of Foley, just kind of west of the roundabout there. They actually do have to plan on they have to still replace that box culvert there. So there will be a closure this upcoming year. I'm not sure when. They didn't give me dates yet. I asked for those and what timeline. So that would require then a detour along our CASA 4, but it'll be a shortened detour. I believe they asked for which road we preferred, County Road 66 or 6, and I'm gonna say to them 6, because that's in better shape, and it's got wider shoulders. But I haven't heard back from them on that. Just kind of an update there. Also, to be aware of, in 2023 and 2024, MnDOT will be redoing the Trunk Highway 23 and 10 interchange there. And I just got a phone call, I think late last week, and one of the detour routes, I'm not sure if Chris was part of this conversation, is to use Mayhew Lake Road, CASA 1 to CASA 3, and then detour them that way. They wouldn't go any further north than CASA 3. And it sounds like, I asked the guy, well, has this been talked about with Chris, previously, and he didn't know. It sounded like the traffic people handed it off to him to do. He's supposed to send me more information regarding that detour route.
That's the last thing we need to do is to, have them go in front of the school. You know, so I hope that it ends at 3 and they take that roundabout and go back on 10.
Yeah,
Sauk Rapids.
and I did ask that. I asked,
Is
is
there-
this continuing north from 3? He said, no, this is up to 3 and then over, pretty much from 1, get on 1 and 1 capacity, and then, yeah, take a left on 3. That's how it'll be signed.
So they'll have detour signs and everything too then, so that it's well.
Correct. And this would be another agreement, I would think similar to, Trunk Highway 23.
Right.
We would, there is, since it is a signed detour route, we would have some, revenue as a result of that, because it's essentially, they're projecting what the damage would be to that road with that excess traffic over that length of time.
Talk about doubling the cars in 2 years.
Yeah.
Commissioner Johnson.
Mark, do you have an estimated timeline of the project yet?
And that's what I asked, and he said 2 years,
A 2-year project?
Yeah.
and 2-year detour.
A 2-year detour.
Oh, boy.
This is
And I
not gonna be
kinda
good.
expressed that's a long period, concern with that. He said that's just the numbers that he's been given, the length of time.
That's a lot of trucks to those roundabouts.
Yeah.
This is not good. This is not good. Because we do know that they're definitely gonna keep going north till County Road 29. And then they're gonna go west. Cause that's gonna be the easiest way to get on 10.
Are we talking 10 or we're talking the 23? They're, from what I understand, what I read, they're not gonna close 10. It's gonna be,
I realize that, but they're gonna detour traffic around that area when they're working on that.
I
Yeah,
thought it
'cause
was
And
just
that's
the
why they're
23
going to
traffic
do
though.
that.
Yeah, it's 23, well, so it's essentially, they're redoing that interchange
Yeah.
and that bridge over Highway 10. And so, some of those ramps are gonna be closed.
Right, but
So-
I don't
So
think,
there's no way of them getting off of 10 though at that intersection. I mean, at those ramps.
I think it's phased in a number of different phases. I was thinking, it'd just be for a certain phase, but they said 2 years.
right.
Um,
The little bit I seen is that it's gonna be the traffic that normally goes on 23
23
and not
to the
10.
west.
So I don't
Yeah.
think they'll affect our, they won't try to get back on 29 like you,
I hope not.
yeah, that they're gonna, 10 is gonna continue to be open.
I think you're right. I think 10 is, and I think the challenge is, yeah, those
It's the
those
23
legs
heading
of the
west.
interchange on
Yeah.
23, when you're going from 10 to 23 or 10, 23
There's,
to.
there's still a lot of truck
There's still a lot of
traffic
truck
though
traffic, but it
coming
won't,
to
at
the
least we
west.
won't be busting up our County 29.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, why would you go around? You'd rather take the slow way than the detour way.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out.
When it's done, the good news is then we usually do get some oversized loads that do come down CASA 1. Because of that bridge, it doesn't have sometimes the clearance that's needed. So, one good thing is when the project is over, we should see, I think, some less oversized loads on our CASA 1. They can just continue through that interchange and get on 23. Right now, they're pretty much, coming down 29, down 1, and then back on 23.
Okay, anything else?
So it was the exits that are gonna be closed, you're saying?
I think so, yeah. It's a big project with the bridge replacement. And so I know there's a number of different phases they'll be working in. But, I think, I don't remember the whole full scope of the work, but I just know, I don't know what the phases, how it'll be broken out and the traffic detours will be. I just know this as it relates to our CASA 1 and 3 for the being used, our roads for the detour route.
Yeah, cause I had heard that they were gonna keep the one bridge going for 23, so that they weren't gonna have to detour that traffic.
Yeah, and that might be where they might bring it down to one side of the bridge and then do the other side and work on there. That's,
Guess as the project gets closer, then we'll find out better information of how they're gonna do this.
yeah.
It's just speculation now.
Yeah, I'm just kinda letting you know, this is just latest developments. And the last thing I have is, snow plows are out at 4:20 this morning around the road. So they're kind of bracing for looks like it'll be pretty good, winter storm coming up later this week with 40 miles an hour winds and I think close to 6 inches. But
Mr. Chair, that reminds me, and I actually had a note about, I was gonna share commissioner comments, but appreciate it, highway and property management. Your highway guys have been out on the road a lot in the last week, and so if you could share that with them, really appreciate the work. I know they've spent a lot of time behind the wheel, so.
yeah,
thank
I was
you.
just talking to a staff member yesterday. He said it took me all weekend to recover from
I believe
last
it.
week. So
Believe it, I
yeah.
know they were in the cab a lot, so thank you.
So Mark and I were at a meeting last night, or yesterday afternoon, and once again, a dead battery, Mark. What are you gonna do with that vehicle?
Oh yeah, I got the mechanic looking at it right now.
Okay, well, get it fixed. Get it fixed. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's all I have for updates.
Great. Anything else for Mark?
Mark, maybe just for the future, and we can talk about this with Monty and stuff later, it'd be nice to have an update on our local option sales tax dollars, maybe towards the end of January. Kind of give us an idea where things are at.
Oh, yeah, the last.
When December's come in?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
and
our
they have
second-
been about the same as last year.
Okay.
Like the last few months have been they haven't been upper, but they haven't been significantly down either, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we
well,
can bring that, I can bring that next year.
Yeah, bring that to our second meeting in January.
Yeah.
Cause you'll probably have that information by then. Great, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Is that it? Great. Next, meeting updates. Who wants to start?
I can, Mr. Chair, it's very
Thank you.
short. Of course, we're all at our call for our budget and levy meetings last week and setting salaries, so we were able to wade through that process. I was fortunate enough to attend as an alternate with Commissioner Pop, the BEP meeting last week. I appreciated that. It was really good to sit inside their meeting and learn about what they're doing and all the things that Amanda has going on, so I appreciate the invite for that. And of course, we had our programming meeting most of the day yesterday with GLT, and I think overall that went very well. I think that staff had a really good opportunity to speak with them and just kind of list out the needs that are there. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Beth, you ready?
I was at the TRICAP meeting last week, and they're adding some new bus lines. And it's pretty much, they're increasing services and doing a great job. And they have their strategic plan of action done. Okay. Then I went to the Minden Township meeting also. Nothing major going on. So, that was it.
She said that's it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Just a
Pop.
couple of things that I had is that we were online with Micah on the 14th. They're working hard with the county program aid, that we get an increase there. They'll be meeting with a lot of the new state reps and that are in charge of county program aid. They think there's a good chance that they'll be able to get some of that moved.
That's 17.6 billion. They
Yeah,
think they can get some
that
of it
they'll
finally.
probably be able to get some of that deal. So if we have AMC and we have Micah both working on it, and I think the good part about Micah is the size of the counties. You know, the surrounding the ring of counties, they carry a lot of weight when it comes to meeting with your state reps. And if you look at the chairs and some of them, a lot of them come from, the Dakotas and the Scott. All the chairs of the committees, both Senate and House, are pretty much metro chairs. So I think, do I like that? Probably not. Do I think it might be good for county program aid? Probably, because they will push on their people a little bit harder. There may be a little bit I shouldn't say more ruthless than we are, but they're a little more, jab at it a little harder about getting that kind of aid. The other part is that Micah is having, we're having some retirements on that board. Four of the commissioners did not seek reelection, and we don't know what the county boards will do in the past, so we're having at least four new members. Our chair, Kathleen Gaylord, did not seek reelection, so we got a new proposed chair, a new proposed vice chair, a new proposed secretary, and a new proposed treasurer. And that will happen in January. We're having a January 11th meeting to do that. On the nominating deal, I was nominated to be the secretary. Yeah. I think it was part of Felix Schmeezing's
Good for you.
deal, so
Good
we'll
for
see. It's not
you.
official because they have to go through the next board meeting. And we'll have representation at least on the executive committee if I am so lucky to get that or not. I don't know if I'm lucky or not. I haven't decided that yet. But it would be, I wouldn't turn it down because it would give Benton County a little bit more representation on that board. And then we had BEP meeting, which, thanks to Commissioner Johnson for attending. I think when we have that opportunity and we can have a couple of people there at something like that, I think it's good for county board members. Jared couldn't go, so Scott, that we see what BEP's doing and how they're doing their memberships are coming in at a great pace compared to last year. I'm really kind of impressed, how people are paying their membership. And part of that is I think they're seeing the value of BEP. I mean, they've been out with retention and the business visits, and I think that has a lot to do with it, that they're out there in the looks of things.
Amanda's doing a great job.
She's doing a really good job on getting it. I think Michello is, people have really come to accept her when she comes out there. She's learning from Amanda, from what I see, that she's more that personable person than what she used to be when she first started. And businesses like that, and I know some of the board members have taken time to go to certain businesses when they're visiting that, and I think that has, and I think if it's a business in your area, they're actually, countering us if we wanna show up too.
Right.
As long as only one or two of us show up, we're good. And they had some new projects. One of the things we heard a lot about was the revitalization of the downtown in St. Cloud, and they're hoping that we got enough people on there, and BEP is gonna be involved, that we move that to the east side of the river. Not just worry about the west side of the river. The downtown is the whole part of St. Cloud. And so we do have one of our board members is on there, John Herges, so I'm sure we'll keep that in mind. And he recommended that Amanda get involved in that to make sure that, the city's focus is not just the west side of the river, that we do look at the east side of the river, because we have, there's a number of things going on there that can do that. And I think Kevin Johnson's another one that's gonna look at that, probably to do, cause he's got some stake in that game right now. So that part was really good. But yeah, that was the two things that I had. And again, thanks to Commissioner Johnson for showing up.
Great, thank you. Yep, with other than the cows that everybody else attended, I also did a presentation at the city of Sauk Rapids about the CASA 1 and County Road 29 with the Sauk Rapids School Board and the Sauk Rapids City Council. And Mr. Lloydell was there too. Thank you, Mark, for being there. Appreciate it. Let's see, I also went to the cities twice last week. That was fun. First one was for the Minnesota Association of the Workforce Boards. I sit on that board, so it was just a winter meeting. It was very interesting. Didn't know Deed was sitting at my table, and they got an earful, but I guess that's why I'm there. Next, I had the SHAC meeting. I was running for vice chair, and unfortunately, I did not get vice chair this year. So in 2 more years, I'm going to get vice chair. I'm gonna make it happen, one way or another. And then and then I had a meeting yesterday too with Mr. Lloydell, with Sartell at the Verso site, trying to figure out what we're gonna do with the city of Sartell. Very interesting meeting, having 3 attorneys talk and being in the middle of it.
Are they still hep on having that entrance
Correct,
come
yep.
out of there?
Yep, and that was the whole talk
The whole
about that.
topic was about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. And we're gonna get it figured out, right, Mark? One way or another, we're gonna get this figured out and resolved. So, that's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I did also go to the east side, our councilwoman-elect had a meeting on the east side about development also, so I think they're gonna be pretty proactive, and I only got to about a half hour of the one in the St. Cloud one.
Okay. Thank you. Comments by commissioners, concerns, anything?
No.
Monty, set committee of a whole.
Okay. Ms. Chair, I understand there's a desire to review the assignments to boards and commissions and do so in a committee of the whole. So I would recommend that you hold this committee of the whole sometime prior to January 17th. Then the board could make the formal adoption on the 17th. So what might be a good workable, let's just say the week,
Tuesday the 10th.
sometime between the 4th and the 13th.
You guys need to do what you're gonna do. I'm gone the 7th through the 14th.
You'll give us feedback of your
I
committee
certainly can,
assignments
yep,
and all
I
of that
certainly can.
before
If you
you
decide to
leave?
meet that week, you can, I certainly would.
Through the 14th, so we could, well, the 17th is our board meeting.
Right. So you probably
We
would
can
wanna
do
do
it
it
the
that week.
16th. Monday the 16th. Monty, you have anything on the 16th?
Are we closed for MLK Day?
Oh, I bet we are.
Yes.
We're closed for MLK Day on the 16th.
We do have a 9 AM call already on the 6th board programming with GLT. I don't know if it's something we wanna add on to that or not, just a thought.
There you go. Could we,
I'm sorry, I don't have that on my calendar.
Friday the 6th,
Friday the
9
6th.
o'clock.
9 o'clock with Geo?
It's a board
Yes,
programming
our
with
next-
GLT.
Meeting with GLT is scheduled for the 6th.
How long, do we have any idea, Monty, how long that will take?
I'm sorry.
I don't either.
What time's that start? 9?
9 o'clock.
I
Did you-
wouldn't think that there's gonna be a long discussion on committee stuff. I don't think.
Committees?
Could we do it?
Would the, would the board be open to, meeting earlier and addressing the committee
That's-
assignment matter earlier?
What time could you get here, Commissioner
I
Pop?
can be here at 8.
Can you be here at 8? Monty, 8 o'clock?
Absolutely, sure, yeah.
Commissioner Schlangen, 8 o'clock? Be able to make that?
So you could then
Go
dispense
ahead,
with.
Johnson.
We
Commissioner
could,
Johnson.
a little, 8:15?
Well, here's my issue. I have a potential virtual appointment with my daughter with a cardiologist that morning at 8.
That's important.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if it's gonna be me or my wife yet.
Okay.
So
Okay, we're
that's
not
why I'm
gonna,
keeping her on.
we're not gonna do it at 8.
I don't know
then.
who it's gonna be yet.
So what do you want us to do about that?
I mean, two suggestions. We could have it right
How-
after GLT, or you guys just have it. I'll share my comments.
Yeah,
No.
I wouldn't wanna hasten your space needs discussion, and that's really important, so.
Let's leave it at 8. You're gonna give
How-
us feed.
Mr. Chair?
How about, well, I was just thinking, we could talk about this issue first and then space needs second. I could just tell Evan, hey, Evan, we're gonna start with you guys at 10 rather than 9. I mean, that's under your
That'll work for me.
control.
That'll work for you?
Will that work for you?
I think so because it's scheduled at 8. So I mean, it should be right away.
So we wanna leave it at 9.
Okay.
Start with committee assignments.
Correct.
And then we'll move to GLT second. So I'll just tell Evan,
Perfect.
hey, get here at 9:30, 9:45, something like that.
Okay.
Also would like to have a brief review of the board handbook,
Yes.
and hopefully, adopt that on January 17th, your county board handbook. Okay,
Everyone, please look through that.
yep, I've got a couple comments on that. So 9 o'clock on the 6th, beginning with, board and committee assignments, then county board handbook, and then
Got it in my phone.
GLT, architects.
Perfect. Thank you for your flexibility.
Yeah, okay, 2 more things, for your calendars. There is a drainage conference being presented by AMC at HCO Viewers, February 8th and 9th. Who would be, is there any interest in attending this drainage conference? It's at Arrowwood in Alexandria, February 8th and 9th.
I would, Monty, but I would say there's a 50% chance I'd cancel out of it because of a conflict I may have. But
Okay.
I could let you know ahead of time. But I'd
So
like to
let's
get
do this.
registered.
This is, right, for just today purposes, this may be a show of interest, and then Beth will be in contact later for specifics.
I'm interested. If I can go, I'd like to go.
You got a note there, okay. Commissioner Heinen as
I
well?
don't, I'm gonna go regardless because I'm on the AMC Environment and Natural
Okay.
Resource, so.
So Commissioner Pop,
Put Commissioner Pinsky down too for now.
okay. So Beth will be in touch about specific arrangements and so on.
Yep.
Okay,
And Steve and Beth, you were gonna go, and Beth, you too.
It's supposed to be for all of us?
well, it's
For
of course
whoever wants to
discretionary. It's
attend.
your call. It's an opportunity to learn more about ditch law and so on, but of course, at your discretion.
Okay, I'll check out my schedule later and.
Okay,
I'll
then
get
Beth will
back.
follow up with you then, okay. Secondly, AMC Legislative Conference, February 22nd, 23rd in St. Paul. Could we maybe have a indication of interest today, and then we'll follow up? February 22nd, 23rd, St. Paul.
What's this about?
Legislative
AMC
conference, you
legislative
visit your
conference.
state senators and
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Okay,
Follow up with you.
Put everybody down
I'm
just in
we'll
case.
put everybody down,
Yep.
and then, okay, we'll follow up with specific arrangements and so on.
Oh, that'll be perfect.
I
I've got
do
a
not-
shot. The 24th.
I'm sorry,
I can
this,
stay
I don't
out
have
till
here
next.
in front of me the agenda, so I don't know how early that first morning they start, cause sometimes you might wanna go
Seven-
down the night before if it starts. earlier.
7:30 usually.
Yeah.
Okay.
7:30.
Well, you start at 7:30, then, the general is usually at 9.
And actually, I think there was just an email that came out yesterday about it where there's going to be a session Tuesday night for quote unquote training before you go to it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
Oh,
read it specifically.
Training because of all the new state senators.
Well, and I think it can be attended by anybody.
There you go.
Right.
It'd be a training Tuesday night.
Training session for new commissioners and all
Thank
of
you.
that.
Hotels full up.
Okay, anything else?
That's all we have, but we get a motion to set those, please.
I so move, Mr. Chair, to set the committee of the holes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussions? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thanks for your hard work this year. It was a very interesting and tough year on me, I can tell you that. So thanks everyone for your support. With that,
10-minute break or 5-minute break.
yep, with that, we're adjourned. And then